Now, Mary Greenwood will be giving out the Lifetime Achievement Award.
I'm so happy to be giving this award to my friend Greg Paraskou. Really happy. And I'm happy too because this room is filled with friends of Greg's and friends who've come from quite a distance, and alumni from the Santa Clara County Public Defender's Office and the Santa Barbara Public Defender's Office, and I see people all over the room who are longtime friends and colleagues of his, which is absolutely wonderful. So let me give you the nutshell version of a lifetime of achievement. He started in the Santa Clara County Public Defender's Office after graduating from Hastings in San Francisco. San Francisco native, Lowell High graduate. We share these things in common. We bonded on those things. He did a short stint in some other not-for-profit type of work, but then came to the Santa Clara County Public Defender's Office in 1972 and worked there for about 28 years. He retired in 2000, and between 1972 and 2000, as Osh mentioned, Greg built a reputation day by day, year after year, as the most stalwart and steady and fierce of warriors in the public defender world, and in a very difficult county in which to practice law at that time in particular. And some people have heard me tell this story about him, but I will tell it again. I was on the homicide team myself. I had just gotten there in the late 80s, early 90s, and I was watching television, and all of the people in this room know that when you're doing the homicide assignment, you watch the news with particular interest, to see who has died or who has been killed or whatever. And this frankly horrific event flashed across the screen of a gentleman who held basically an entire Silicon Valley company hostage and shot and killed multiple people. And I remember looking, and the case was Richard Farley's, I remember looking at that and thinking, oh my God, who in our office is going to be able to represent him? Not because we weren't willing, but who would be able and capable of being able to represent him? And I certainly knew it was not me at that time, And of course, everybody in the office knew that night that it was Greg. And that's who Greg was in the Santa Clara County Public Defender's Office. He was the rock, the pillar of that office for the most serious and difficult and high-profile cases. And he lived the life of a defender in Santa Clara County so admirably, married his wife, Mary Ann Miner, the love of his life, and had this tremendous career for 28 years and retired. And of course, most of us, we would retire and we'd garden and play tennis and relax and look great and do all those wonderful things that you do when you retire, but not Greg. Greg went on to become the ¡2 guy in the Santa Barbara Public Defender's Office under Jim Eager, and then about 4.5 years later, when Jim came up to Monterey County, that it was truly, after just shy of 40 years, time to retire. In that almost 40 years of practice, and by the way, as manager and administrator, he continued to try cases throughout his entire career too. I mean, that was remarkable in and of itself. And I will tell you, he never lost the fire, never became cynical, as embattled as he was in many of his cases. He always kept faith with everything that we believe in, everything that Professor Babcock was speaking about. He really was a warrior's warrior and still is. Very early in his career, one of his clients, in the 70s, one of his clients wrote this: "It was thanks to his resolute attitude not to let an injustice be perpetrated in my case, and his steadfast efforts and interest, that grounds were found to file the redeeming motion to dismiss and the consequent granting of the same by the judge of the Superior Court." And I think resolute and steadfast really represent what his 40 years of lifetime achievement mean. But I will also say this, and I know all of his colleagues and friends would join in saying this, that besides being resolute and steadfast and a warrior, Greg is so full of life and love. Love for the practice, love for our practice, love for his colleagues, and truly love for his clients. So, Lifetime Achievement and Honorary Life Membership Award presented to Gregory Paraskou, Santa Barbara County Public Defender, Santa Clara County Public Defender too. As an in-the-trenches deputy public defender in Santa Clara, you were an outstanding advocate for your clients. Your work with the Brian Scheckmeister Death Penalty College, along with your patient mentoring, showed your dedication to ensuring well-trained lawyers for indigent clients. As Santa Barbara Public Defender, you were a resourceful leader who helped the community appreciate the work done by public defenders. Your well-informed and collaborative leadership helped make the California Chief Defenders an important part of CPDA. Greg Paraskou, great colleague, understanding teacher, and respected leader. Much loved.
Okay.
Thank you, Mary, for those kind words. You can see why Mary was a great trial lawyer. She can take a sow's ear and turn it into a silk purse. I want to thank CPDA for this honor. Having been a public defender for almost 40 years, it's a particularly meaningful honor to receive. It's been a great source of pride for me over the years to be a public defender and to be part of this wonderful community of advocates and people. So it's really meaningful for me. I think, whatever we achieve as trial lawyers, we have to remember there's a whole body of people that we rely on. Whether we start with the legal secretaries, we have our paralegals, our social workers, and of course our investigators. I mean, no real lawyer can do a job without having a great investigator working the case, because investigators are absolutely essential to what we do. And it's certainly something that as chief public defender, and I know public defenders around the state fight for like crazy, is to have adequate investigation on their cases, because it's absolutely essential. As a new public defender back in 1972, I had the honor, I didn't realize then at the time, that I had shared an office with a woman by the name of Rose Bird. I won't take credit for what she achieved after that, but it was, Rose was an extraordinary legal mind, but more so, she had a high standard of dedication and ethics about what we do, that is representing people and making sure that we provide only the finest possible representation quality for each and every client. And I tried to take those lessons from Rose and many of the other mentors that I had in Santa Clara over the years, and some of whom are here today, and I appreciate them being here. And I tried to apply that when I was in the trenches every day to every case and every client that I had. Tried many cases, many homicides, many non-homicides, many capital cases, but that's what we do, and that's what I love doing. It was, there's no better time than to be in trial on a serious case. And in the last few years that I was in management, and that's with due respect to juvenile, because I've been in juvenile many times still, and I agree with what Jan says about juvenile, so that's a very important assignment. And for the few years that I was the chief public defender, one of the fights was to make sure that we had adequate resources. Because the reality is today in the economic situation, we are facing real challenges. Struggling for adequate resources, staff-wise, and money to hire experts and so forth, from our county boards of supervisors and our county execs, can be a daunting and at times risky venture, particularly for a chief public defender. But we must continue to find ways to meet that challenge, and we must stand together to support each other in that endeavor. And that's one reason, among many, that an organization like CPDA is so important to the ongoing provision of services to the indigent in this state. We cannot lower our standards. We cannot avoid providing the highest quality representation, and certainly our clients can't afford us to do that, even in the face of the political pressures to cut corners, to increase caseloads, and the infamous do more with less. I've never been able to figure out how you do more with less. What we do is simply too important. I'm presuming I'm not the only one in this room who has occasionally been asked the question, how do you defend those people? Anybody else ever get that question? Public defenders and our clients are not generally seen by the majority of the community as popular people. But defend them we must do. Because in defending them, we stand between the power of the state and the individual. Because in defending them, we are defending the core values of this country and the Constitution. Because in defending them, we are giving voice to those in our community who are voiceless. The poor, the homeless, the mentally ill, people of color. There is no higher calling in the law. Everyone here knows of the hundreds of exonerations among those sentenced to death in this country. The conviction of innocent persons is not unique to just capital litigation. It permeates our entire criminal and juvenile justice systems. And that is why we must defend them. We must not only protect those who are innocent, but also to protect those who are not. Avoiding a third strike in a case and saving a client from a lengthy sentence, persuading a judge to place a client on probation instead of sending him to prison, being successful in turning a felony into a misdemeanor, keeping a 17-year-old kid in juvenile court instead of being prosecuted as an adult, all are equally important to our clients and their families. So I encourage you all to continue the fight. To those running public defender offices, do what you must do to ensure that you have the staff and resources to defend the clients and defend them well. And to those of you who are in the courtroom every day, continue to do what you do. Fight like hell and don't give an inch. I wish you all well in all you do, and thank you again for this honor.